I think this is a good time to lead into the first monologue that I wrote, which is about misinformation. There are two very different things at play here. One is what's happening, and one is what's being reported and talked about. Those on the streets are seeing one story. Those at home on Twitter and watching the news are seeing a very different one. I tweeted the other day, misinformation is one of the biggest instigators of evil right now. I've watched over the past couple days as big-time pundits on both the left and right push one side of the story to promote their political or ideological goals. Without saying any names, certain people on the right place all blame on Antifa, thugs, which we'll get into, while steering clear of violent cops, white supremacists, and most importantly, how to solve the problem that started these riots in the first place. Certain people on the left place all the blame on violent police without calling out opportunistic looters and anarchists. Let me help you all out. Actors who turn these protests violent, no matter what hate group they align with, are to blame. Cops who use brutal forces against peaceful protesters are to blame. The cops that then protect those cops are to blame. Opportunistic looters, both black and white, who steal from family-owned businesses are to blame. Pundits on the left and right who tell one-sided stories that pander to their base and drive further division are to blame. The president who threatens military fucking action against U.S. citizens instead of offering words of calm, peace, and systemic change during painful times is to blame. With a million micro issues in play, the biggest problem this country faces right now is accountability. Everyone is so busy pointing their fingers at someone else that they have forgotten to fix the real issue, themselves. And like we already discussed at the beginning of this episode, there's a million issues at play here. But you have seen people on the left and right take opportunity after opportunity to turn this into a one-sided story to further their own goals.
Disgusting. It's disgusting. I watched this documentary called The 13th last night, and actually in this thing I prepared later, I took some of the facts I learned out of the beginning from that, and it's fascinating to me how much people in general, specifically in this movie, politicians will bend their moral code to get fucking elected, to get a vote, and people are no different. Like, I hate to say this, but I've had this extremely uncomfortable feeling in people this past weekend. I've started to stop believing in humanity because people are so greedy and exercising the worst sides of themselves because they can take advantage of peaceful protests and start looting and rioting, and none of it is right. And I again, I can't believe how many people I mean, what are some of the groups that you see at these protests? Like, I want you to elaborate like some of the groups and their agendas when it comes to taking advantage of what's happening in the country right now.
So at the protests, which have turned into riots, or some people call them separate from riots, there are multitudes of groups, and each one of them is to blame for the good and bad that happens. You've got peaceful, good police officers out there understanding that the country is in pain, standing their ground to protect places, but not pepper spraying citizens at will through the windows of their car, not driving their police cars through barricades where people are standing, not attacking 90-year-old people that are standing at the bus stop. I saw a cop push a 90-year-old with a cane on the ground. There are good cops out there who are standing with the protesters, walking with the protesters. So you've got them. You've got the good cops. Then you've got the bad cops, the racist cops, the authoritarian cops, the police state cops, the brutal police that are the same as the one that started this in the first place. So you've got good and bad cops. You've got peaceful protesters. You've got that are the real winners here. The people marching, the people pushing for systemic change, holding signs, activating the base, talking about what they can do to fix the problem, but still calling for peace. And then you've got hate groups. You've got Antifa. I'm not claiming that they don't exist. I'm not claiming that the anti-fascist group as it exists in America right now is not out there causing problems. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that there's white supremacists out there on the other side. There's Proud Boys. There are multiple groups of people who stand to further divide this country and to drive the dialogue of hate. My issue on Twitter and my issue for the past week has been that our president and other people like him on the other side. Sorry, we got some sound.
What is it?
Is it coming through?
Is that a jet?
Can someone check on it? Maybe Eve or David?
Bro, I thought that was a jet. I thought
like
the National Guard was coming in for sure. I thought that was it for all of us.
I saw some.
Bro, well, I mean, we've been seeing the helicopters. I've been seeing helicopters do like barrel rolls in the sky.
What?
No, I'm exaggerating, but they're taking curves and turns sharper than
Do we
I've
want?
ever seen.
Are we cutting all this out?
No.
Oh, we're gonna keep it. Okay. You've had people on both sides, hate groups on both sides, pushing their own personal agendas forward. And you've had pundits on both sides calling out one group or the other. They're all to blame. All of these people are doing a disservice.
You forgot to mention the
And
opportunistic
I'm
riders.
getting there. I'm getting there. And then you've got opportunistic rioters and anarchists. I have, since the beginning of this, stood up and been unable to condemn people who have torched symbols of systemic hate. People went and burned down the Sisters of Confederacy building. I applaud you. I applaud you for pulling down the statues of the Confederates who drove division in this country. Yeah. I applaud you. Yeah. Even as far, and this is where it gets close, as the courthouses that have served the Black community unjustly for decades, that have passed sentences down that were unfair and not justified by law in this country. But when you start burning and looting family-owned grocery stores, personal-owned businesses that people, even Black people and Hispanics in LA, have worked their entire lives to get to a point where they can own a business, and you break the windows and you steal stuff out of it. That is where someone like me, who vastly understands the cause you are after and fights alongside you, that is where I draw the line. When you start to violently attack people, both Black and white and Asian and Hispanic, that defend their possessions that they have worked their lives for, that is where I draw the line.
So that's where I'm like, I feel like
I think
people taking advantage of the peaceful protests and of the riots, shame on you. That's where I get disappointed in humans. It's a few people who are taking advantage of peaceful protests, and now everyone's paying because of it. It's like, as if this thing isn't muddy enough. You're just stirring the pot more, and it's so unnecessary. It's these anarchists who have these wet dreams about the collapse of society and are finally getting to take advantage of it.
Yep.
Shame on you.